Okay. I will now call this public meeting to order. The time is 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an overview of the public hearing procedures?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This public hearing is being held pursuant to sections 464 and 465 of the Local Government Act. The purpose of a public hearing is to allow all persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that is the subject of the hearing. Council's role in a public hearing is to listen. This is not a forum for debate or comment by council, nor for gestures or remarks of support or opposition from council. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be asked to provide their name and address for the record before beginning their remarks to give council an idea of proximity to the application. This public hearing is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on the city website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The corporate officer will confirm whether the statutory requirements for the public hearing have been met and will provide a summary of written representations received for each item. Planning Department staff will give a presentation on the item, after which the mayor will issue 3 calls for public comment on the bylaws. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 5 minutes to speak per call to a maximum of 15 minutes. Speakers are asked to provide their name and address before beginning their comments and to address only the issue at hand. Staff will respond to technical questions where possible. After the public hearing has been closed, council cannot receive any further communication, written or verbal, regarding the public hearing item. Further consideration of bylaws on this agenda will take place at the next regular council meeting.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item number 1. We'll now begin the public hearing. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the first item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met and provide a summary of written representations received for the item?
The first item on tonight's agenda is application 2020-014RZ. The subject application is to rezone the property at 12209 Lady Street from RS1 single detached residential to R1 single detached low density urban residential to allow a future subdivision of 2 single family lots. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing, with notices posted in the November 11th and 18th editions of the local newspaper. 36 notices were mailed out in relation to this application and 0 pieces of correspondence were received.
Thank you. I will now invite planning staff to give a presentation on Maple Ridge Zone amending bylaw number 76482020.
Good evening, Council. Our first item this evening is a rezoning application on Lady Street at 12209. It is under application 2020 number 14. It's a rezoning application under that bylaw. It's urban residential. It will remain urban residential in our OCP. It is currently zoned single detached residential, or RS1, which is the large lot designation. It's going to be proposed to be subdivided into 2 lots, oversized R1 lots. And the site area now is about a 1/4 of an acre or 915 meters squared, and there'll be 2 dwelling units on the property. This is a subject site facing Lady Street, outlined in red. And you can see by the context map that there are other applications in the area. Some have completed some time ago, shown in the hatching. There's our official community plan designation of urban designation. And the blue is an institutional church use. This is the overhead view of the existing neighborhood. Largely all single family homes on larger RS1 type lots. So the proposal is to rezone the site to R1, which are the smaller lot sizes with a 12-meter frontage. There is an OCP designation of urban residential that supports the proposal. There are 2 lots only being created. The minimum lot size under that zone is 370 meters squared. The actual lots will be 454 meters squared and 459 meters squared, so significantly larger and deeper than what the zone would allow. There is a community amenity charge required for the new lot of $7,100 will be required in a condition of final reading should it go that far. Again, they're looking for a little bit of road width reduction from 24 to 18 because of Lady Street, and that's a typical requirement, as well as there's some lot width reduction slightly of 1/2 meter from 12 meters to 11.5, and this is quite typical for R1 lots in an urban setting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call for public comment on Maple Ridge zoning amending bylaw number 76482020. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? For the first time, seeing none, I'll call for a second time. Does anyone wish to speak on bylaw number 76482020? I just want to confirm that there's nobody online. No, okay, good. Seeing none, I will call for a third and final time. Does anyone wish to speak to comment on bylaw number 76482020? Seeing none, I will now declare the public hearing on bylaw number 76482020 closed. We'll move on to item number 2. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the second item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met and provide a summary of written representations received for this item?
The second application or the second item on tonight's agenda is application 2022-170 AL. The subject application is to exclude a 1.6 hectare 4-acre portion of the property at 23154 128th Avenue from the Agricultural Land Reserve. The subject property forms part of the proposed Yennadon Employment Lands Area Plan, which is intended to permit future employment uses. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices posted in the November 11th and 18th editions of the local newspaper. 16 notices were mailed out in relation to this application. 1 piece of correspondence was received in opposition to the application.
Thank you. I'll now invite planning staff to give a presentation on application 2022-170-AL.
Good evening, Council. Yes, application for the address 23154 128th Avenue, and the application is to exclude land from the Agricultural Land Reserve. The existing official community plan designation is agricultural, and as mentioned, it is located in the ALR. Existing zoning is RS3 and RS2. Total site area is 1.6 hectares or 4 acres. The existing use is single family residential and agricultural. And the proposed use will be single family residential, agricultural, and future industrial pending the adoption of the Yennadon area plan. The subject map showing the property. This property is just west of the intersection of 232nd and 128th Avenue. The official community plan context map. The green is the agricultural designation to the south. The yellow is the estate suburban. And then to the east, we've got the blue as the industrial or institutional designation. And then the red is the commercial. Neighborhood plan context map showing the larger single family lots to the north. And there are some vacant parcels to the south. And these southern lots make up part of the Yennadon lands. The exclusion proposal to remove the subject property, which is 4 acres from the ALR. The subject property forms part of the proposed Yennadon area plan boundaries. And this one is the last of the 13 properties to be removed from the ALR. The Agricultural Land Commission has identified this property, the subject property, as being appropriate for exclusion from the ALR as per a resolution back in 2011. And this new exclusion process eliminates the option for a landowner to make an exclusion application, and instead this falls on the local government to now act as the applicant. The Yennadon area plan map. So just a reminder to council that the concept for the area plan is to permit future employment uses. In terms of process, the Yennadon area plan redesignation report received 3rd reading on May 24th, 2022. And again, a reminder that the Yennadon area plan is not part of the discussion for tonight's public hearing. The council process and next steps. The application attended the committee of the whole meeting on October the 18th. It was then at council on October 25th. Tonight's public hearing, November 22nd, and the next scheduled council meeting for November 29th. If approved on the 29th, the application will proceed to the ALC for their review and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call for public comment on application 2022-170-AL. Please provide your name and address before beginning your comments, and you will have 5 minutes. Not seeing anybody for the first round and not seeing anybody online. Seeing none, I will call for a second time. Does anyone wish to comment on application 2022-170-AL? Again, seeing none and nobody online, and I will call for a third and final time. Does anyone wish to comment on application 2022-170-AL? And again, seeing none and no one online, I will now declare the public hearing on application 2022-170-AL closed. Moving on to item number 3. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the third item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met and provide a summary of written representation received for the item?
The third item on tonight's agenda is application 2014-040RZ. The subject application is to redesignate the property at 24138 Lougheed Highway from rural residential to suburban residential, and to rezone the subject property from RS3 single detached rural residential to RS2 single detached suburban residential to allow a future subdivision of 2 single-family lots. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing, with notices posted in the November 11th and 18th editions of the local newspaper. 13 notices were mailed out in relation to this application and 0 pieces of correspondence were received.
Thank you. I will now invite planning staff to give a presentation on Maple Ridge Official Community Plan amending bylaw number 7883-2022 and Maple Ridge Zoning amending bylaw number 7221-2016.
Thank you, Council. Our final item this evening is a rezoning application and OCP amendment at 24138 Lougheed Highway. Again, it's rural residential and it's moving to suburban residential to accommodate 2 1-acre lots from a 2-acre parcel. The existing zoning is RS3 that's being proposed to rezone to RS2. This shows the subject site outlined in red on the south side of the Lougheed Highway, just south of the Albion area. This shows the suburban residential designation, which permits 2-acre or going to 2 lots. This is the subject site. There's an existing house on the property. Access will now be from River Road to the east on this drawing here on that cul-de-sac. Again, we're recommending it move forward as staff to create a 2-acre subdivision, 1 acre each. We have an OCP amendment and we have a rezoning application to accompany this. There is 1 lot being created anew, so they have to pay the community amenity charge of $7,100. And this is the proposed subdivision plan. You can see access to the westernmost lot will be across a stat right of way to River Road. That way we can remove and eliminate 1 access currently exists on the Lougheed Highway, which the Ministry of Highways is certainly opposed to. So we're recommending it move forward under 2 bylaws, an OCP amendment bylaw, as well as a zoning bylaw, under these following terms and conditions: approval from the Ministry of Highways, amending the official community plan schedule. B, restrictive covenants from the geotechnical point of view to ensure the site is safe for its intended use. There will also be removal of an existing structure, potentially decommissioning the existing well, as well as making sure their site is it has no contamination, which we believe it does not, and removal of the existing septic field, as well as the community amenity charge requirement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now call for public comment on Maple Ridge Official Community Plan amending bylaw number 7883-2022 and Maple Ridge Zone amending bylaw number 7221-2016. Please provide your name and address before beginning your comments, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing nobody in the audience and nobody online, I will call for a second time. Does anyone wish to comment on bylaw number 7883-2022 or bylaw number 7221-216? Seeing nobody in the audience and nobody online, I will Now, I will call for a third and final time. Does anyone wish to comment on bylaw number 7883-2022 or bylaw number 7221-216? Again, seeing nobody in the audience and nobody online, I will now declare the public hearing on bylaw number 7883-2022 and bylaw number 721-216 closed. And this concludes tonight's public hearing. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Further consideration of bylaws on this agenda will take place at the next regular council meeting. We are now adjourned. Thank you. That was easy.